everybody? This is John Pesnowski bringing you guys another episode of the Bare Necessities Podcast, recording Tuesday, August 22nd, 2023. We're bringing you guys detailed analysis and engaging conversations about the Chicago Bears and all of the NFL. Today, we're talking about a few things, starting off with the disappointing news. Tevin Jenkins, the starting left guard of the Bears, has a lower leg injury. According to Brad Biggs of the Chicago Tribune, he could potentially miss the majority of September. What does this mean for the Bears and just the offensive line as a unit moving forward? We're bringing you guys some instant reactions, our risers and fallers in terms of stock, in terms of who impressed us the most from the Bears-Colts preseason game number 2 on Saturday night, and why I was super impressed with undrafted rookie free agent out of the University of Shepherd quarterback Tyson Bagent. Do we have potentially a backup quarterback controversy on our hands here in Chicago? And we get you guys ready for the preseason finale this upcoming Saturday at noon when the Buffalo Bills come to town. Why I believe it's important for a lot of the first team starters, including quarterback Justin Fields, to hopefully play the first half of the game. The season opener is going to be here before you know it, guys. We are 19 days away from NFL Week 1 kickoff on the lakefront when the Green Bay Packers come to town. But before we get started on today's show, I just wanted to give 2 quick shout outs. First, to my good friend Donnie Cassins, who dedicated some time out of his extremely busy schedule to come up with the official Bare Necessities logo. This logo is going to be shown going forward. It looks absolutely incredible, the amount of feedback, immediate feedback I've gotten on it. So thank you again so much, Donnie. Everyone, please go check out Donnie's Instagram. I'm going to post that link below. It is at Decoy. Just an amazing and incredible artist, an insane amount of attention to detail. Donnie comes from such a diverse background with so many amazing illustrations. Again, I highly recommend you guys go check out his Instagram page, and I'm going to post that link below in the video description. Thank you again, Donnie, so much. Again, that logo, it looks amazing. And the second mention I wanted to give, and I failed to do this last week, I would love for you guys to go follow Down the Rabbit Hole Media on YouTube and Spotify. My man, Tony Joseph on the East Coast, big New York Giants fan, has just been so kind and generous to me, giving me this platform to talk to you guys of what I love about most, and that is football, that is Bears football. He runs a great website over there. You guys can quickly locate the Bare Necessities podcast. All my episodes are under the podcast tab. You just click on Bare Necessities and boom, all my content will be right there. Some other great podcasts on that page, including Tony's own Next Man Up. Highly recommend you guys go check that out. That website link can be found in the description below this video. So with that being said, guys, let's start the show, and let's start off with that Bears breaking news over the last few days, and that's the Teven Jenkins injury. And quite frankly, I think this is really disappointing, and it comes as quite of a shock. Sunday evening, news on Twitter broke from Brad Biggs of the Chicago Tribune that Jenkins could potentially miss the first month of the regular season. And what strikes me as really just kind of odd is this news came out of nowhere. Tevin Jenkins fully participated in practice. He even met with reporters on Thursday of last week. So maybe some foul play here, just a hunch. Just a personal opinion. Maybe something happened outside the training facility, outside of practice. And, it's only August, so the Bears organization really doesn't need to say all that much here. They're not required to say specifically what happened, why it happened, how it happened. So will be interesting to see if more details emerge in the coming weeks. And this Teven Jenkins injury is one of several injuries to affect that interior offensive line. Center Cody Whitehair has been dealing with a hand injury. According to head coach Matt Eberflus, it's really not all that serious. Also, backup center guard Lucas Patrick's been dealing with an undisclosed injury as well. Could we see him potentially fill that voided spot for Jenkins when the season starts? And also, what's really been troubling is newly acquired free agent from the Tennessee Titans offensive guard Nate Davis, who was supposed to be the starting right guard once the season starts. Hasn't practiced really all of training camp with another undisclosed injury. He just returned to practice last week, but he hasn't had any preseason game reps per se. So I'm really concerned with this interior offensive line, and in my opinion, probably one of the most important units on this Bears roster is that offensive line. Justin Fields was running for his life last year. Pro Football Focus gave the Bears offensive line a good grade because, yeah, they're a really good rushing offensive line unit, but in terms of passing, one of the lower ranked offensive line units in the league. And Teven Jenkins, in my opinion, arguably is their best offensive lineman. So it's really going to hurt not having him start the regular season. According to Adam Schefter, he might be dealing with a lower calf strain, but it wasn't just calf strain. It was plural calf strains. How does that happen? How does one have multiple calf strains? We really don't know. I'm not sure we're going to know the full extent of that injury. So will it be Lucas Patrick? Will it be Lucas Patrick coming in to fill that void at that left guard position? Will it be Jatir Carter who might get the nod for Jenkins? He's looked pretty good in preseason. Could it be Alex Leatherwood, who is the former 17th overall draft pick from the Las Vegas Raiders just a couple short seasons ago, had a really great college career at Alabama, won multiple awards there as one of the better college offensive linemen. Really hasn't found a name quite yet for himself in the NFL, dealt with mono the majority of last year. I'm really curious to see how this offensive line is going to come together and create some type of cohesion moving forward without Jenkins. Definitely a big, big blow to the Bears roster. But some positive news I did want to talk about, and what everybody has been talking about the last couple of days, if you watched the preseason game the other night, is Tyson Bagent. That's right. Could a former Division II quarterback become the backup of this team? Bagent stole the show in Indianapolis against the Colts Saturday night. He orchestrated a 17-play, 92-yard drive, which resulted in a 2-yard touchdown. He scrambled on that play. And again, a night where the majority of all Bears starters did not play, did not even suit up, including Justin Fields. Bagent opened the door for a new quarterback to emerge on this roster. And in my opinion, this is new territory for the Bears. I mean, we really haven't seen a young kid emerge and develop on this roster that hasn't been a high draft pick. I mean, look no further than what the San Francisco 49ers did last season with Brock Purdy, a late-round draft pick who showed that they can play in this league. And, you know, we're not comparing Tyson Bagent to Brock Purdy. That's not what we're doing here. But again, I'm just stating the fact that clearly this kid can play. And what's really interesting is the Bears signed former Panthers quarterback P.J. Walker to be Justin Fields' backup this season. They guaranteed him $2 million, which is good backup money for a backup quarterback on a 2-year, $4 million contract. But Walker has really struggled in these 2 preseason games. The other night, he went 1 for 4, only 6 yards through the air right before Tyson Bagent entered the game. He only played 2 drives. And, you know, my immediate thoughts are, why the hell not? Why can't the Bears play this Tyson Bagent kid? Why can't they continue to give him reps? He doesn't need to be a practice squad guy. In my opinion, he has shown enough to beat out Nathan Peterman and perhaps beat out P.J. Walker. The kid shows real confidence. He does not panic when the play breaks down. He's quite athletic rolling out of the pocket and throwing on the run down the sideline. And if you go back, I mentioned this in last week's podcast, so in the first episode of the show, Bagent set the Division II record at the University of Shepherd, West Virginia's finest, for his collegiate career. He threw 159 passing touchdowns. That's right, 159. That is a lot of football. Let's get into Nathan Peterman, who played the entire second half against the Colts, primarily going against the 3rd string and the 4th string Indianapolis Colts defenders. Peterman finished 10 for 15 for 115 yards and a touchdown. But again, it was Bagent, in my opinion, who looked like the Bears' best quarterback of the 3 backups. And again, Bagent finished the game 9 for 10, 76 yards, no turnovers, and that rushing touchdown. And in my opinion, too, it's pretty telling that Bagent entered the game before Nathan Peterman. And even head coach Matt Eberflus spoke after the game and said, quote, "Everything's open right now in terms of roster competition." So again, do we have a backup quarterback controversy behind Justin Fields, ladies and gentlemen? We're still 2.5 weeks away from that season opener against Green Bay. I'm not going to get ahead of myself. I think all of us collectively, including myself, are just so thirsty and hungry for more football content and more Bears content. So we're latching on to anything positive at this point. But Tyson Bagent, this kid can play, and I'm really excited to see what he's going to do on Saturday and how much playing time, how many plays he might play against the Buffalo Bills. And speaking of the Buffalo Bills, we're going to go ahead and look ahead to the third and final preseason game. But first, let's talk about some players that did impress, as well as some players that kind of fell short from the Colts game before we get into the Bills preseason matchup. Again, this is the Bare Necessities podcast. Please give us a subscribe and please like this video if you guys like this content. In a game where the final score really didn't matter all that much, the Colts ended up with 17 unanswered points in the fourth quarter to beat the Bears 24-17. Again, it's just preseason. These scores really don't matter. Let's talk about some players whose stocks are rising. And the obvious first choice, we just talked about it just several moments ago, is Tyson Bagent, who, again, just looked so poised and crisp out there. He certainly put his best foot forward to not only just make this roster, but potentially move up the pecking order in the quarterback room at Hallis Hall. I'm really, really interested to see how many plays he gets this upcoming Saturday against the Bills. Are we going to see more of him or Nathan Peterman? And is that going to be a telling sign to see who the third string quarterback is? Could the Bears potentially keep 4 quarterbacks on this roster? I mean, because of Brock Purdy, who also we just mentioned, the teams are allowed to keep an extra spot on their roster for a quarterback. You know, God forbid injuries do happen, like we saw in the NFC Championship game. Could the Bears end up keeping all 4 guys? I certainly hope that Bagent isn't just a practice squad guy. I think he's done enough and shown enough already to make this roster and to make the final 53. Moving on, another player that really impressed me and just building off of the preseason opener was running back Roschon Johnson. Again, really impressed in his second showing in his young NFL career. He only played 2 drives. However, he had the longest run of the night for the Bears. He had a 14-yard run straight up the middle, continues to show how physical he is and his ability to finish in between the tackles. He had a nice 13-yard reception as well on a screen pass. The kid runs hard. He hits the hole fast, and he is not afraid of contact. I think we're going to see a real steady dose of number 30 behind Khalil Herbert, and I'm excited to see just how well Johnson produces behind the first-team offense. I really think he's going to carve out a nice role in this Bears starting offense this season. Speaking of rookies, another rookie that continues to impress is defensive tackle Zach Pickens. That's right, the third-round pick from South Carolina had a tackle for a loss, a quarterback hit, and a couple run stops. Pickens built on a productive preseason opener where he had a sack, and he and Javon Dexter got the start in this game against the Colts. He looks to be a force up front. He's continuing to get good reps every week, and I'm excited to see where his ceiling goes forward. And another guy that's probably a practice squad guy, but he had a really solid game, was wide receiver Darius Fountain, playing against his former team that drafted him in 2018. He showed off his athleticism to stay in bounds. He hauled in that really nice 35-yard touchdown from Nathan Peterman to start the fourth quarter. He finished as the Bears' leading receiver. He had 5 catches for 86 yards and that touchdown. And again, you know, that Bears wide receiver room is really, really crowded. You have a lot of guys ahead of him. So I'm not necessarily thinking that Fountain makes this team, but he's going to probably stay on the practice squad where he spent the majority of last season. Now let's talk about some players that fell short and that I expected more from. And let's start with quarterback PJ Walker, who, again, I really haven't seen enough from Mr. Walker in this preseason. Again, he went 1 for 4 the other night. He had 6 yards on 2 drives. And the Bears could have kept him in longer if they wanted to see more, but they pulled him for Bagent. I mean, there's more than enough tape on PJ Walker as they brought him in this past March for a reason in the offseason. But the Bears need to see him produce. And just because they guaranteed him that contract doesn't necessarily mean he needs to be the second string quarterback. And this is what's really important, guys, and really what I want you to focus on. Justin Fields has missed 7 games in his first 2 seasons in the league, excuse me. The options behind him right now are PJ Walker and Tyson Bagent, who played Division II football, and Nathan Peterman, who still holds the NFL record for throwing 5 interceptions in, I believe, 1/4 or 1/2. It's either or. Still pretty remarkable that's even the case. So, but going back to that Division II football player we talked about a lot in this podcast so far, he certainly looks like he's coming for that backup spot. Walker better finish this preseason strong. Otherwise, his job might be in serious danger, and I sincerely mean that. Another player that fell short, and I'm a little concerned about, is wide receiver Equanimeous St. Brown, and there's no denying what EQ means in Luke Getsy's offense as a perimeter wide receiver blocker. He's truly arguably the best blocking wide receiver on this team and one of the better blocking receivers in the league. But the Bears are still depending on him to do his job at the end of the day, and that's to catch the football every once in a while. And that continues to be an issue. He dropped another, for sure, first down in the first half of the Bears-Colts game the other night. And there's going to come a time in this season, very much like it did last season, when the game is on the line and Justin found an open receiver. The Bears potentially could have beaten the Miami Dolphins last year if Equanimeous St. Brown didn't drop that first down. I'm concerned that this is a continuing trend, that maybe he just doesn't have good hands. Maybe Luke Getsy is thinking Equanimeous St. Brown could be his Alan Lazard on this team. Both guys are former Green Bay Packers. Luke Getsy comes from the Packers, former offense as coach there. I'm concerned that this is a consistent issue with St. Brown. And, as the 4th-string guy on this team, I expect more from him. And I expect him to catch passes when they're thrown his way. And we continue to see this be a pattern. So situation, it's going to be monitored. So we'll see if he can get out of this kind of a rut of dropping balls, especially in the preseason. Can't have that. And another player that kind of fell short a little bit on Saturday, and I'm not going to get too much into this because I still think he's a really solid rookie, but he just kind of took a step back from such a great preseason opener, and that's cornerback Tyreek Stevenson, who we talked a lot about on last week's episode, and it doesn't take away at all his progress from that first game, like I just mentioned. But the play that stuck with me was that 15-yard personal foul play, that late hit. And unlike last week, I think he's really going to have a big role on this defense, but you can't make silly mistakes like that. You can't keep opposing teams' offenses on the field. He also, again, 2nd week in a row, he missed a for sure interception going straight through his hands. That was the Colts' first touchdown pass of the night. Again, went straight through his hands. I think the kid's going to be a presence on defense. I really do. I'm looking forward to seeing more of his play this upcoming week. And I really think he's going to etch a nice rollout on this defense. So with that being said, let's look ahead really quick to the Bears preseason finale this Saturday at noon when the Buffalo Bills come to town. I really, really hope that Justin Fields plays the majority of the first half. I'm interested to see if Chase Claypool and Nate Davis are able to just take the field on Saturday as they continue to sit out the regular, as they continue to sit out of practice. I mean, the regular season's in 2 weeks. I feel like these guys need to get into some type of a rhythm, right? I mean, I think it's really beneficial if a lot of these guys go up against other competition other than their teammates in practice. That's what the preseason's for. Am I right? I'm curious if Claypool, Nate Davis, and some other of the Bears starters are going to get some decent playing time on Saturday. And speaking of offense and playing time, I'm interested to see just how much we're going to see of Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, Dawson Knox, and that Bills offense on Saturday. In my opinion, arguably still one of the best and most impressive units in all of football last season. I mean, they're a must-watch TV. Curious how much the Bills are going to play Josh Allen and the rest of the Bills starters. And not as important as the other two that I just mentioned, but I'm curious if Velus Jones, if we're going to continue to see him as our starting punt returner for the Bears. I'm not necessarily concerned with Velus Jones taking kick returns per se, but punt return continues to be an Achilles heel for him with those consistent fumble issues. Can he be trusted back there? I mean, have you given up on Velus Jones at this point? A lot of people have given up on him. A lot of people don't even want him to make the roster at this point. I'm not one of them. You can't teach speed, and Velus Jones has that speed. Punt return and decision making back there continue to need to be improved. But I expect more from him, and I expect more from him in this offense. And kick return, that speed that I just touched on, you can't teach speed. And I still feel that he's a really solid kick return in this league, but punt return might want to think about handing off the reins to, Dante Pettis, Treston Ebner, maybe rookie Tyler Scott, maybe give him a shot. I'm curious if the Bears are continuing this project of Velus Jones at punt return, and will we see that on Saturday against the Bills? So moving forward and just moving on, I just want to talk about a little bit some other NFL takeaways before we wrap up the show. The Baltimore Ravens, their amazing 24-game preseason win streak that I talked a little bit about last week was snapped on Monday night. They fell 29-28 to the Washington Commanders. The Ravens didn't play their starters, and Sam Howell, the newly named quarterback of the Washington Commanders, he had a great game. Went 19 for 25, 188 yards, 2 touchdowns. Really solid showing for Sam Howell. And if you're a Washington Commanders football fan, Jimmy Garoppolo made his debut with the Las Vegas Raiders in a 34-17 win over the LA Rams. Garoppolo only played 1 drive, but he went a perfect 4 for 4. He had 68 yards and a touchdown on that drive. Really solid showing for Garoppolo. Some more appearances. Brock Purdy made his first appearance since tearing his UCL in his right elbow in late January in that NFC Championship game against the Eagles. Purdy took 10 to 15 snaps, somewhere in that range, against the Denver Broncos. He finished 4 for 5 for 65 yards. And speaking of the Broncos, another amazing return was Broncos running back Javonte Williams, returned to the lineup after a season-ending knee injury that happened in week 4 of last season. Great to see both guys get back on the field for their respective squads. Moving on, Super Bowl champions Kansas City Chiefs. They dominated the Arizona Cardinals 38-10. And the Steelers beat the Bills 27-15 behind another great starting performance from second-year quarterback out of Pittsburgh, Kenny Pickett. He finished 3 for 4 with a touchdown. So quick show today, guys, but this has been the Bare Necessities Podcast. Please subscribe to my channel. Give this video a like. We're going to be dropping new episodes and new content every Monday and Tuesday once the regular season begins. Also, be sure to follow Down the Rabbit Hole Media on YouTube and Spotify. I'm going to post that link below in the video description. Also, again, thank you. Big thank you to Donnie Cassins for creating the Bare Necessities logo. You can follow him on Instagram at Decoy. I also put his Instagram handle in the video description as well. So with that being said, guys, I'm Johnny P. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. I'll see you guys next week. Thank you guys so much. Bear down, baby.